Marco Polo, the Tier 8 Premium Regia Marina battleship, is one of the two prizes that you could get at the end of this campaign, the other one being the Marlboro, of which we've already covered on this channel, so go check out that video if you're interested in comparing her to Marco Polo. Marco. I've played around 4 times as many games in the Marco than I have Marlboro. I was never able to recreate the kind of successes that I had with Marb, but on the flip side, I feel like I have a pretty decent understanding of this ship now. In a very quick nutshell, the guns hit hard when they hit what you're shooting at. Exhaust smoke is clutch, the maneuverability is fun, overall it's a very unique battleship, and it's pretty cool. I had lots of mediocre matches to choose to show you guys, but I thought this one was decent at illustrating my points. Exhaust smoke. It is amazing on battleships. 45 seconds of concealment at full speed. It allows me to do this, my favorite maneuver, run straight in at the enemy, smoke when you get spotted, pick a good broadside target, turn out, and shoot. Now, in this particular match, we did things a little bit out of order. We didn't smoke up quick enough, so look, everybody got their salvos off. But that's fine now, they've already shot, so I can shoot back in return, and then turn out, and no one's going to have full salvos to shoot my broadside with. So a little bit out of order, but it is a great strategy, and you can rack up some solid damage early on in a match. As for the ship setup, we are using aiming systems, rudder, concealment, and MBM3. Basically everything is poured into accuracy. We have a 15.2 Iachino here, 16.3 Scharnhorst, Flamcan, Marksman, whatever we can do to clean up the accuracy. Yes, it's a 1.9 Sigma, but Italian BB dispersion is going to troll you. All of it together, say we're shooting at a cruiser, we're going to have 11% buff to the grouping and 18% buff to the dispersion, but still the accuracy is not going to impress you. Now, I'll continue down this rabbit hole, but first, there's one other module we need to look at. Semi-armor piercing shells. This is the second battleship in the game. You can equip this with. The Dante Alighieri was the first. You can equip this instead of high explosive shells, and you still get your normal AP. When you put on your SAP module, something happens to Marco's reload. It gets 4 seconds longer, so you're going to have a 36-second base reload. That is longer than the Kansas by 2 seconds, and as I see it, I mean, that should be the longest battleship reload in the game. So we threw on MBM3 and a very high-level D Revel, and it brings it down to about 30 seconds. So battleships sometimes have bad accuracy. Marlboro, for instance, 1.4 Sigma. It's a good thing you're throwing 16 shells downrange because the accuracy is straight up bad. But the time it takes to reload the guns can add to or reduce frustration with bad RNG rolls. Okay, so we fire our guns in Marlboro. 16 guns. We have a bad RNG roll. Oh well, because the base reload is 25 seconds. Marco Polo, we fire. We get a bad RNG roll. Well, it's a little more painful here because the base reload is 36 seconds. To me, Marco Polo is one of those ships that relies a little more on RNG. Yes, you can absolutely wreck face with a punishing AP salvo every now and then, but after about 20 games in her, I find the consistency of her guns just isn't there. Let's go ahead and check out some stats though. Survivability-wise, it's okay. Health pool is pretty low, and the heals are Italian, so they're not that great either. The armor scheme is good and bad. The good. Strong deck and casemate protection. It's going to troll cruiser HE spam, even from larger caliber ships like the Des Moines. You're going to make them shatter a lot. And things get worse after that. Torp protection is a weak 25%. Citadel protection against BB-AP, plain and simple, is not good. You have a 320mm belt that falls behind Musashi, Maine, Republic, and others, and while there's a turtleback scheme, it's not a very helpful one. The angle is very shallow on the Citadel, so AP rounds are going to scream through the outer and the Citadel deck slope. Those of you looking for Marco Polo to be a brawler, you have been warned. It will not protect you like German or French turtleback schemes from getting blapped during a drive-by. Also, when kiting, this stepped portion in the back catches AP shells for devastating damage. Ask me how I know. It's the same on the Littorio battleship, so while you're kiting, you can use your decent gun angles to shoot back kind of over your shoulder, so to speak, but you can also catch lots of damage through your keister. On to the guns. The damage output is good in theory. The SAP Shell Alpha is huge. Purple on the chart here is the SAP. You can see the DPM of it surpasses even the Marlboro's HE DPM, so pretty interesting, huh? In practice though, I racked up much higher damage numbers in the Marlboro than Marco ever did. The SAP shells, they're quite good though, and I think we could stop here to do a quick refresher on what SAP means and how they work. SAP, it takes the best of HE shells and combines them with AP shells. Just like a high explosive shell, they're going to penetrate a set amount of armor. Regardless of how far you shoot, the shell velocity, or the angle with which you hit a target, they're simply going to penetrate that amount of armor or not. So if Marco fires a high explosive shell, it's going to pin 67 millimeters of armor. If Marco fires an SAP shell, it's going to go through 102 millimeters of armor. So SAP gets through more armor than HE shells. SAP shells deal high damage numbers like AP. One single Marco Polo shell deals 12 to 13,000 damage. I can't remember the exact amount. They also ricochet less than AP shells. And they do not overpenetrate targets, except destroyers. Of course, you're going to only get to deal 10% of the shell damage like an overpen. So all of that together, SAP basically just takes the good of the HE and the good of the AP and slaps them together, and to balance it out, you get a very long reload. The AA is mediocre, 377 DPS, but the range is only 4 kilometers stock. That's not great. The speed is great, however, 32 knots. It ties with the fastest BBs at tier 8. It's great for pushing. It's great for flanking. I would not park this ship somewhere and just stay sitting in one spot, bow in like your typical Iowa player. No. Personally, the maneuverability is one of the high points of Marco, so use it. The turning circle is among the best of tier 8, and the rudder shift is average stock, but remember we put rudder in mod slot 2, so that's going to help you maneuver around, bring your guns into and out of the fight, whether you're pushing or kiting. Concealment is also nearly the best of the tier. Again, in these last categories, we see Marlboro win a couple more times, but still, overall, really good stats for Marco and Marlboro. I feel like I said plenty of bad things about Marco, and I'm throwing up the old nice work things because I've just had been frustrated with the guns not hitting what I wanted them to hit. Anyways, there's good things to say about the ship. The exhaust smoke consumable is great. It gives you so much utility. The speed makes her a dangerous adversary. The SAP shells, they deal massive amounts of damage during good hits and are a reliable source of damage. And the concealment and the turning circle are among the best of tier 8 BBs. I think she's a dangerous ship in the right hands. And now time for my personal opinion. Parents, hide your kids. In a choice between this and Marlboro, I'm going to take Marlboro, and I'm surprised to hear myself say that. After all, Marb has the worst armor scheme of any tier 7, 8, or legendary BB, in my opinion. It has atrocious gun firing angles and bad accuracy. But for me, this choice comes down to fun factor. I'm not playing in a King of the Sea tournament. I log on to have fun, and hearing the gun sounds of 16 British 14-inch guns going off does it for me. It's a lot of fun. Not to mention that Marb has better HP, effective HP, damage output when you consider fires, better AA damage and range, better rudder, better concealment. Marco is a good boat. Better than Marlboro, you decide. But fun factor for me, it's going to be Marb all day. Which ship ends up with the better win percentages? Probably Marco. The better damage numbers? Marlboro. You can pick what you think is more important to you. Speaking of, let me know in the comment section down below. I love to hear from you guys. If you think I got it wrong, tell me. If you like the Marco better than the Marb, let me know why. Also, do me a favor, hit the like button. That would help these reviews get out to more viewers and maybe, I don't know, teach a couple potatoes what not to do. In this game, I tried to stay zoomed in on basically every salvo that I shot, so that way you could watch the shells and decide if you think the accuracy is good or bad for yourself. I think I went back and added it up just because I was curious, and in this particular match with my mid-range shots, we weren't really sniping by any means, but we had maybe a 58% hit percentage, I believe, out of every shell fired. I've never really done that with battleships before, so you can tell me if you think that is good or if that is bad. I counted every shell hit, you know, even if they were shatters or overpins or things like that. But I do feel like the longer reload just makes you notice when a salvo isn't so pretty, and you will definitely notice it with Marco. If you try D-Revel and Brawler to really lower the accuracy, or really lower the reload, I think the accuracy is going to be absolutely atrocious. But if you try that, let me know. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for future content, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.